Politicians are justly up in arms that a North Carolina school district paid professional race hustler Ibrahim X. Kendi $25,000. That's 25 smack, 25 large of your real estate property taxes paid to this guy for a speech advocating more racism against white people in the classroom. 25K. Goodness. If blacks finally wake up and realize how profitable to them white privilege is, maybe we could all finally live in harmony. I'm Dr. Duke, she's Katie, and this is the 500th episode of The Dr. Duke Show. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the 500th Dr. Duke Show. As you know, we're the only program that keeps you educated on the craziness impacting K-12 classrooms and college campuses around the world. Today's show is sponsored by Mike Lindell and our friends at MyPillow. For more than 15 years, MyPillow has been producing the most comfortable pillows in the world. But did you know that this week, they are focused on selling their amazing Egyptian cotton sheets. These ultra-soft, extremely durable sheets come in a range of colors and sizes. And right now, our audience can get 2 sets of Giza sheets for the price of 1. All you got to do, free shipping. All you got to do is simply use the code Dr. Duke. That's DRDUKE. Melodious, DRDUKE. And if you go to mypillow.com, you can save up to 66% on everything else while you're getting buy one, get one sheets. This is the code Dr. Duke, DRDUKE. We love MyPillow, and I hope you do too. Everything you do to support them ultimately helps support us as well. Okay, today we start in North Carolina, where state officials are fuming after the second largest school district in the state paid $25,000. Can I stop right there for a second? For about 5 years, I gave about 1,000 talks on Common Core in 48 states. I don't think I made $25,000 for all 1,000 of those talks. Not even close.
Yep.
And Mr. Kendi, a race hustler whose only real recommendation is he doesn't look like Al Sharpton, I suppose that's a good thing, is now this expert writing this drivel about how, and this is, as you'll see in a moment, this is something he actually believes. The only way to fight racism is with racism. And only way to win the future is more racism. This is his philosophy. We have to become racist to fight racism. The future has to be racist for us to have equity. This is the kind of drivel this school district paid $25,000 for.
And it's actually North Carolina Lieutenant Governor Mark Robinson who was the one calling out the school for doing this. And I'm only bringing up his race because it's pertinent since this is a race story. Mark Robinson is black.
Well, is he? Dun, 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 dun. By not going along with the program. Is he black?
This is true. Well, so basically Robinson said, this is clear and direct evidence that critical race theory is being pushed in North Carolina. The simple fact that Ibrahim X. Kendi is coming to speak, because as you talked about, Ibrahim X. Kendi is all about fighting racism with racism. And, he wrote a book called How to Be an Anti-Racist. He's the reason we have the whole, it's not just okay to not be racist, but you have to be anti-racist. I just saw not too long ago the whole Tom Hanks, of all people, has to be anti-racist, not just racist. Yeah. Is he anti? And so now all these celebrities, everyone, if you're not anti-racist.
Well, I think it's worth a pause. Tom
Hanks
has been called out by black activists because, quote, he has spent too many times making movies in which the heroes were white men.
Oh, geez Louise.
How dare you make movies like the Apollo 13 movies or the Forrest Gump, where he plays a semi-mentally challenged individual, still apparently depicts white men as heroic. And so this is where we are today.
Exactly. And Robinson said, in terms of paying the $25K, the fact that a public school district would pay someone who chooses to teach others that, quote, the only remedy to past discrimination is present discrimination, end quote, is unimaginable. So if you have the lieutenant governor of your state being like, what are you doing at the school level? What is the job of the public school, like in their mind? It's clearly to push this.
It seems to me, if I were the governor or the lieutenant governor, I would really look into how are school districts able to spend that kind of money on stuff like this. There has to be some authorization. I mean, can you imagine if somebody spent $25,000 to bring in Jerry Falwell, right, or somebody like that? We would never hear the freaking end of it. Or to pay $25,000 from somebody from the Trump administration to come and talk, this would be an outrage.
Yeah,
to the progressive educrats. But to spend it on this guy whose whole platform literally is discrimination must be fought with discrimination. That we need more discrimination to fight old discrimination.
And the best part of this whole thing is in his book and in his writings and his teachings and all this, Kendi says that capitalism is essentially racist. Racism is essentially capitalist.
So can we take a look at
they
Mr.
shall
Kendi again?
one day die together from unnatural causes. Now my question is, where's that $25K going then, Mr. Capitalist?
He's probably got about 2,000 or 3,000 in that suit right there,
That's
Mr. Perpetually oppressed. There's a guy who knows how to, he's a sharp-dressed man, right? That ain't cheap what Kendi's wearing.
You know what? Maybe he got that suit from Amazon. And Amazon gets all their money from all of us, and then they decide, you know what? We're going to buy Kendi's books, and then we're going to give them to a high school. So thank you, Amazon.
So related here. This is how people like Kendi get rich, hustling race this way.
And so according to various documents, back in February, Amazon, they contacted a school district, and they have this thing called the Neighbor Good Program. And it's part of, like, with Black History Month in February. They wanted to be, good to the black students in the school. So they reached out to see, hey, what is it that you need? So Amazon Public Relations Manager Justin Grayson wrote to the Arlington Public School Director of Communications, Frank Balavia. So they basically obtained a whole bunch of emails going back and forth between them. And says Amazon Logistics will be delivering smiles to educational institutions and nonprofit organizations that empower black voices and serve black communities. Through Amazon's Neighbor Good program, we have committed to donating $100,000 to a select group of recipients in Atlanta, Georgia, Arlington, Virginia, Houston, Texas, and Nashville, Tennessee. That's the overall arching program. Okay. Well, Kindles are a part of the program, but that would help kids read and all that. But Arlington Public School, Director of Diversity and Inclusion, I don't know if it's Aaron or Aaron, double R, Gregory, wrote back with his requests. I corresponded with our library services, and this opportunity is so timely. Library services just spoke to Wakefield about trying to purchase the book Stamped, Racism, Anti-Racism, and You by Jason R. and Ibram X. Kendi. However, we ran into a financial hardship with this initial purchase, so this would be huge for us. So they want to get Kendi's book into their school, and of course, that's what they're going to do. The Washington Free Beacon said that they spent $5,000 to give about 550 copies of the work to the Wakefield High School because that has the most black students in all of the district there.
So again, notice how this philanthropy works.
And then we're not done because the Jason R., not only the books, but the Jason R. was given $10,000 to come speak to the students about it. So you're talking about $15,000
so
more.
$25,000 on top of $15,000 more. Yeah, it's an amazing racket. I mean, why should we be surprised? We grew up with Jesse Jackson and the Reverend Al Sharpton shaking down Toyota, shaking down big American companies. We're gonna go after you. We're gonna tell all our followers not to support you because you don't hire enough black employees. And if you want to avoid that, we need a donation. $2 million into our funds, right? Into our programs. That's how Jesse Jackson did it. And look, I mean, what's different? What's the difference between them? The only difference between what Sharpton and Jackson did and what Kendi and co are doing now is they're much more money. These big corporations are forking over huge dollars to these race whores to try to overwhelm your schools and your kids. And it's working.
If we're going to talk about one grifter, we might as well talk about another. Nicole Hannah-Jones wants to have her cake and eat it too. If you don't know who Nicole Hannah-Jones is, you're a lucky human being. But she's the New York Times de facto editor who developed the program, came up with the 1619 Project.
This is a woman with very little journalistic capacity and absolutely no academic understanding of history. And yet,
she's throwing a tantrum because she wants to get tenure at a university. Now, she was given she wants immediate tenure, but she was giving a contract to teach at the Huseman School of Journalism and Media. Okay, North Carolina, University of North Carolina.
And this is a very North Carolina-centric program. But as a professor, let me point something out to you. She did not have to apply for a job. She has no terminal degree. To be a university professor these days, you have to have a PhD or definitely an MA, but almost always a PhD. To be able to do that, she has no credentials that would warrant this. She has not applied for a job. She's done no real academic work in her life. And so they invited her initially, and they were going to give her tenure, and then all hell broke loose about that, and now she says she won't come unless you guarantee me tenure. Before I even set foot on your campus, tenure usually takes 6 to 7 years of regular evaluations by your faculty peers to make sure you're competent, you're doing the right thing, that you know how to teach a class, that you treat people fairly, that you're a good colleague. 6 to 7 years of this, she wants to forego it. And now she's entitled to it, right? So you either bring me in with tenure so you can never fire me, a job for life, or I'm not coming. And racism is the one thing she keeps saying is why she's not getting hired.
So in terms of being a professor, she does have a Master of Arts, but she does not have any actual long-term experience. But we know this is what happens if you're a celebrity or you're a politician or you're apparently in the newspaper industry. They're just going to put you in front of, the real people who are qualified have to sit at the back of the bus, but they get to go to the front of the line of the bus.
Well, up until Donald Trump, because none of his people have been hired by universities.
I don't get it.
Prior to that, how many of Obama's people ended up in colleges? But the difference is they were never given tenure.
Yes.
Right.
Here's the thing. It's not only is she demanding that she gets tenure right away, even though she was given a 5-year contract, she's getting a legal team involved because why wouldn't she? So she got a legal team together. They sent out a letter stating that she will not start her position as the Knight Chair in Race and Investigative Journalism on July 1st without her tenure. The position as Knight Chair in Race and Investigative Journalism. Why are those two put together?
Exactly. Call it affirmative action for untenured black professors. How about that?
So
you just deserve tenure because your blackness is so desperately needed on this campus. We'll forego what everybody else has to go for, and get your lawyers involved. And isn't it interesting that they always default to the law? What a systemically racist country we are. But all these professors who find themselves at odds with other people, they go right back to the justice system, don't they?
I wouldn't call her a professor, but yes.
Yeah. Well, you certainly can't call her a journalist.
This is true. So they got a copy of the letter, the North Carolina Policy Watch, and it says, Ms. Jones will not be taking back her letter of tenure because basically she was given tenure initially, but then, what do you know, the whole controversy because 1619 is not factually based and all that, and so there's controversy with her.
Jones is known primarily for the 1619 curriculum, which is all made up, right? And a number of historians all across the country, including liberal historians, including African-American historians, have said this is garbage. This is a bad curriculum. It's based on lies and distortions, as one critic put it. These are actual credentialed history professors who say this is bogus history, and the fact that you're employing her, let alone giving her tenure, you are rewarding lies and academic fraud, basically.
No, not according to the attorneys for Nicole Hannah-Jones. It's they're alleging in this letter the inferior terms of employment offered to her are derived from viewpoint discrimination and race and sex discrimination. Because she's female. Let's just throw sex discrimination in there too.
I can't think of almost anybody who, as a beginning professor, has ever been brought in with tenure. It almost never happens, right? But this is or a terminal degree. And this now is viewpoint. The whole stupid job. It's journalism seen through the prism of racism. That whole job is invalid.
Yeah,
it's made up nonsense.
According to her attorneys, she's not been given a reason as to why her tenure was pulled. She can't. And so they in the letter go on to allege that the political interference and influence from a powerful donor contributed to the Board of Trustees' failure to consider her tenure application. So now we're getting a little conspiracy theorist going on.
Well, I would hope for our
being
board.
an investigative journalist herself, maybe she should find the answer to this.
I really wish more than one Board of Regents said this. If that's what happened, somebody on the Board of Regents is, you can't just hire her because she's black.
And then in the letter, they said, well, now we can't trust the university. This is exactly how it always goes.
But you know what? If they turned around and gave her tenure, suddenly she'd trust the university again.
Crazy, gonna crazy. And we have some crazy coming out of Iowa, where we have an Iowa teacher named Megan Geha, and she's gone viral. So now she's being forced because of Governor Kim Reynolds' latest, comeuppance, as she will. I think that's how this Megan Geha would view it, as a comeuppance.
And my governor has put into place some ridiculous legislation that many governors across the country have put into place, such as I can't teach anything divisive, I can't teach critical race theory, and I can't teach about racial equity. This is at all public schools, colleges, and universities. So, teachers, in the past, we've been activists. After this of last year, we really need to stand up and do what's right for our kids right now. So, this is a call to action, teachers. We got to stand up and fight for our kids, because this is.
Notice what her problem is. You can't tell me that I can't be divisive. This is what her definition is. She's not teaching to everybody in the class. We were told by our governor that we can't be teaching divisiveness in the classroom. We cannot be unequally treating people. Can you believe that? Can you believe the nerve of that governor we have?
And the fact that she said, in the past we've been activists and now we need to stand up. Well, you've been activists this whole time, and that should be nothing there. You should not be an activist, period.
So you're admitting that you have been activist in the past, which is why she banned you. Because you teachers can't do your job. You got to insert your own politics. You got to insert your own worldview. You got to punish kids who disagree and reward kids who lap up what you say like little lapdogs. You just admitted that you were activists against the will of everybody, and so now you're surprised that you're ordered not to?
And the simple fact that you have to have the United States flag and maybe say the Pledge of Allegiance.
The other thing that my governor has mandated for next year is that every classroom, it's mandatory that we all have an American flag, and it is mandatory that we all do the Pledge of Allegiance every morning. You're going to be hearing from me a lot next year.
Oh, the humanity of a flag in the classroom. Are you kidding me? What? She's making probably $67,000 a year, $70,000 a year. And she, for that small pittance of money, she has to put up with a flag in her classroom? She has to say the Pledge of Allegiance with her kids? Oh, the humanity.
Yeah, and she's not done. Now, before we show this next clip, let's remember she's a special education teacher at Des Moines East High School in Des Moines, Iowa. Special education teacher in Des Moines, Iowa.
Let me tell you a little bit about the population of my school. 51% of my students are Latinx, and many of them are undocumented, and many more have parents who are undocumented. So when they come into my classroom and see signs that say no human is illegal, they don't need to know who I voted for. I don't need to tell them. When my black students come into my classroom and see my Black Lives Matter posters, I don't need to tell them. When my LGBTQ plus students come in and see my pride flag, I don't need to tell them. Because they know that I have used my critical thinking skills and have decided to vote for whoever is on the side of fighting for human rights.
And so there she just admits it, right? That, can you imagine if somebody has said that illegal means illegal, no aliens? That would not be allowed in public school. She can do her politics at school and the other teachers can't, right? As long as you're a good lefty, you're right. The students, because of the way you're able to decorate your classroom, the way you're able to front and center your political worldview and your advocacy and get away with that, right? You've got Black Lives Matter in the classroom. What if it was a conservative teacher who had all lives matter in the classroom? That would be removed. In other words, you've already created the system. You just admitted why the governor did what she did. You're admitting, and you're too stupid to see it. Maybe the special ed kids have a special teacher who needs a little bit remediation. Maybe the same yellow bus should pick her up every morning because she's too stupid to even realize that the very reasons you're being put on these programs, you're being told what to do, is because you spend all your time admitting how you're circumventing critical thinking. You're circumventing fairness in the classroom. You're admitting it. You're boasting about it. You're bragging about your political worldview and how your kids know exactly what you think. And you think this is a good thing. This is why governors are intervening. It's time for some real education, and we've been talking about George S. Patton this week as a rejoinder to what's happening all across this country with regards to the military. Critical race theory, which we talked a lot about in the schools today and every day, it seems, is also being applied to our young soldiers. And they are being pushed, particularly if they're white, to admit their whiteness, to go through all of this soul-searching and admission about how they're privileged and their worldview is evil. The country that they're being asked to defend is nothing but a racist piece of garbage. And so I thought we would spend a week looking at the commentary of George Patton, who really told it like it was, and a lot of people didn't like it. Take a look at these quotes. Patton said, quote, "Lead me, follow me, or get out of my way." What leadership do we actually have in the American public school system today? We can't get kids to read and write well. Lead me or follow me or get out of my way. Pretty interesting. How about this? The soldier is the army. No army is better than its soldiers. The soldier is also a citizen. In fact, the highest obligation and privilege of citizenship is that of bearing arms for one's country. So why are we treating our citizen soldiers as if they were right-wing Ku Klux Klan militiamen? Doesn't make any sense, does it, Joe Biden? How about this quote? "It is a proud privilege to be a soldier, a good soldier, with discipline, self-respect, pride in his unit and his country, a high sense of duty, an obligation to comrades and to his superiors, and a self-confidence born of demonstrated ability." All of that now has been reduced to racial politics. Patton continues, quote, "You need to overcome the tug of people against you as you reach for the highest goals. Real success is not about claiming victimhood and wallowing in it. It's recognizing that we all have, regardless of our race and ethnicity, hurdles to overcome and crosses to bear. You must overcome them, that tug of people against you, as you reach for high goals." And finally, quote, "It is foolish and wrong to mourn the men who died. Rather, we should thank God that such men once lived." Think about that on the next Memorial Day.
All right, those are the stories for today. If you have a question for us, please feel free to drop it in the mailbag by emailing askduke@fpeusa.org. And if you enjoy our content, please support our show and join the Patriot Club. Your one-time $99 tax-deductible donation keeps us going. Simply visit patriotclub.us to get signed up. That's patriotclub.us. And as a special little thank you, we will ship you our signature tumbler.
And that wraps up this show for Freedom Project. I'm Dr. Duke. She's Katie. Until next time, stay educated, my friends.